Lynn, welcome aboard to the show. So happy to have you on today.
Well, Ari, I am so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
What was the moment that you realized that you're going to be a salesperson?
Well, I have been selling since I was a little girl in Girl Scouts, and I knew that back then. I mean, we had this brand new cookie badge that became available, and you had to sell a truckload of cookies to get this badge. And I have to tell you, I coveted that badge. So that very first day, I hauled out my best friend, Judy, who happened to be very shy and introverted. We had loaded my little red wagon full of cookies and out we went into the neighborhood. And I immediately discovered, three challenges. And that first challenge was that hauling my little red wagon loaded with cookies up and down the crooked sidewalk was not that easy. The second thing is that my friend Judy, who I already mentioned is so shy and introverted, would not leave the wagon. So she would stay there at the sidewalk with the wagon, and I would run up to the house, ring the doorbell, knock the whatever was ring the doorbell, knock the door, right? And I would see if they were home. Now, that was the other thing. Not everybody was home. So that was challenge number 3, but continuing on with challenge number 2, if they bought, I would have to run back to the wagon, get the cookies, and I'd run back to the house to give it to them. And then they'd be, oh, no, wait, I want another box of samosas. I'd run back to the wagon. It sounds exhausting, right? So at the end of that first day, that's how I felt. I was disheartened.
Hmm.
I was like, how am I going to sell a truckload of cookies in this short period of time to get this badge that I really wanted? And at dinner, I was talking about this to my parents. I'm like, oh, and my dad asked me a single question.
Hmm.
And he said, Lynn, where do people buy their cookies?
Hmm.
And I went, well, at the grocery store. And a plan was born. The very next day, we set up shop and set up a table right outside the grocery store. We played to our strengths. Judy was at the table. She
Hmm.
took the money, gave the cookies, and I was out front. I was bringing people into the table.
Hmm.
And we did that
You were
every day.
walking the
We created a
floor.
consistent, repeatable process. We sold a truckload of cookies.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, we were the only girls in our entire district to get the badge that year, and the youngest 2 girls in our state to get
Oh,
it that
wow.
year.
Oh,
And
wow.
we did it because we loved, the organization and the product. We created a consistent, repeatable plan, and we thought like our clients, and we figured out, well, where do they hang out? Where can we attract, connect, and close our ideal clients? And it was perfect.
I mean, I'm assuming you were what, like 8, 9, 10, something like that. And you're walking up to, in essence, adults, maybe double your height, starting a conversation with them. I mean, it's intimidating to start a conversation with, your equal that you don't know, but with somebody who's you're kind of looking up to them. What did you learn in that process? What were the challenges you had to overcome in just starting up a conversation with somebody?
Well, first of all, I think there's a couple things that really help you. I really loved Girl Scouts. I had been a brownie, then I became a Girl Scout, right? And I really loved those cookies. And I really wanted that badge. So I was emotionally connected to the organization, to the product, and I was motivated to
Mm.
get something. So when you have that, and that's that beginning place, it wasn't that hard because and people are nice. I don't even remember somebody being mean and nasty.
Mm.
It was pretty easy. If they weren't interested, I let it go because I had another prospect walking up right then into the
Right.
grocery store. It was an unlimited supply of
Mm.
leads, so to say, or ideal clients. They were already coming to the grocery store to buy things. So it was not hard. And I guess it was you if you had that little magic mix put together, and that really helps your confidence and assurance.
You were clearly drinking the Kool-Aid, right? You were in a place that you loved and you knew what you wanted. You were well incentivized. What does that look like for when you kind of look at the landscape of, corporate America? it's not so easy to create that buy-in and that incentive. What are the problems that you see when you work with, prospective sales organizations?
Well, when you're looking at, from my experience of being in corporate sales at a really high executive level, there's definitely a difference. So first of all, once again, if you're in sales, if you don't believe in your organization
Hmm.
and your product or service, you've got to find another gig. You know, highly qualified salespeople can always find new positions. So you've got to believe in the organization and the product and service you deliver, because that gives you that confidence and assurance. And it also really extends beyond that to your worthy intent. Because when you believe in the organization and the product and service that you deliver, it means that you know with confidence that you're going to be able to deliver on the promise of
Hmm.
that product or service, that organization. So, from that perspective of corporate America, it's really important. And that piece of inner motivation is also driven by that. Because if you know that you can help and serve people and create massive impact, sales is a heck of a lot easier, because that belief, that core value set that you bring to the table to your clients, it's contagious in a good way. All right. And so that's one of the most important things. And if you're selling some kind of just something that they're using manipulation, or
Yeah.
it's dishonest, that kills your soul. It poisons you and you've got to get out. Um, but the thing is it doesn't matter if you're selling widgets that happen to go into some part, or you're selling some kind of incredible solution for a better healthcare plan. I don't care what it is. Those widgets have value. They make it easier for that manufacturer to get the parts that they need on time to manufacture their product without headache. It makes their life easier. It doesn't have to be rocket science for you to be creating service, an impact for your clients.
How do you know? I mean, you kind of alluded to the fact that might not be the most exciting thing that you're selling, but you want to believe in it nonetheless. When you're looking at prospective organizations to join, how do you know if you will be able to get to that level that you believe, that you really know this is driving value, and then that will create that kind of nice environment where you're selling something that works? How do you even get that?
Well, I mean, first of all, once again, you want to make sure that the place that you're going to go to work, the organization, you need to be asking them questions. It's got to be
Mm,
a win-win, and it's got to
mm,
fit. If they don't match that there's a cultural gap or in the environment, their mission and their belief system, their value set within that organization, um, doesn't match, then you need, like I said, a highly trained salesperson can find a position anywhere, and you can learn a new product. The features, but what are the real benefits?
right.
Why does it matter? So your clients can what? What can they do? So if it's that widget, very boring, maybe it's screws. It's screws that go into parts, right? Well, you can create that piece where they have a really, really smooth running production and operation. You are making it easier for them in turn to manufacture their product, and you're cutting their costs because they always have the parts that they need. And maybe you put in a Kanban system, something else that serves them. That's when you take one thing off of somebody's plate that they don't have to think
Mm,
about anymore and they don't have to worry about. That's a gift.
right.
It's a gift. And that's exciting. For years I sold printing. Printing is pretty darn boring. But it was a gift because I took that, the marketing directors, the purchasing agents, whomever,
Mm,
they never had to think about it anymore.
right.
The entire project was handled.
What are the red flags if you're looking at an organization? You're like, well, that's not a great signal.
Well, there's going to be different questions that you need to be asking. So if you clearly understand your own value set, then, and I am not an expert on that type of, you know, uh, career questions or things like that. So I'm going to be really clear. But you want to think about what are those questions that you need to be asking. So I'm going to reverse engineer that back. So I'm a sales consultant. And one of the things I ask prospects before they ever schedule an appointment with me is how important relationships are in their sales process.
Hmm.
If they don't score 8 or higher and an 8 to 10, 1 to 10 or 0 to 10 score, they're not a good fit for me. And I literally put that right in my Calendly. I'm all about relationship sales. I build long-term relationships. To this day, I can pick up the phone with anyone I've ever worked with and give them a call, and they'll be happy to hear from me. So that's really important to me up front. And that's something that you could talk about. Well, how do you build relationships with your clients? What does that client journey look like from that relationship perspective? So that's a way that you could ask that to see what kind of feedback you get.
Is you're clearly, let's call it biased for a moment, that relationships is the way to go in the sales process. Are there industries or scenarios or environments where that's not true? I mean, is there truth to the other side of it where it's very transactional, the tactics should be different, or do you feel like this is true across the board?
Relationships do matter, but there's absolutely transactional things. I mean, nobody calls you and talks to you about signing up for Canva, right? I mean, that's or nobody calls you and asks you if you want to sign up for Chat GPT.
Right.
Nobody calls you about signing up for like Ring. I mean, they do have an 800 number type of thing, but people just go on the app and they sign up, right? They buy the product. Nobody calls you from Amazon to try to become a Prime member. I mean, so absolutely. D2C and SaaS are very much driven by consumers making a decision in a very different way.
Right.
That's not where my sales expertise lies. There's all kinds of different levels of sales expertise. You've got D2C, you've got SaaS, you've got people who specialize in very specific industries like travel or insurance or whatever it happens to be. Some of them have their own rules and regulations and nomenclature that goes on. So there is not a one size fits all, and anybody who tells you that in sales I'm sorry, they are lying to you. That's the simple truth.
I so deeply appreciate that because I see conflicting advice all the time in sales. And my appreciation is, well, they're both right, but it's in different environments and different situations. And actually the more interesting thing is, well, when is it right here and when is it right here? So I so deeply appreciate your comment. I want to kind of flip the script. We kind of talked about, the aspiring salesperson or finding the right sales job. But if we flip the script and we look at the sales organization, right? From the perspective of the manager, the executive, how do you identify if a sales organization is working well or not beyond the clear revenue growth numbers?
Yeah, I mean, well, one thing is there's always a competitiveness between the different persons. However, are you still creating a collaborative environment for
Hmm.
best practices and um, tactics or strategies to be shared? That's really important. Um, Even within a
So wait,
big
hold on.
organization.
I got to stop you there, right? Those things seemingly contradict.
No,
So tell me why not? Because you would think collaboration, but competition, they're not exactly the same thing. Why don't those things contradict?
because every salesperson has their own unique style. All right. We're like little mini entrepreneurs, and I worked in this environment for years. And if you pit the salespeople against each other, the whole organization doesn't win
Hmm.
because you're creating a very negative environment and culture, and people are running around with daggers between their teeth. It's that type of atmosphere, um, that negativity seeps into all other kinds of things. Now, you can be competitive against
Hmm.
the other salespeople, like to, how much you sell, the profit level you sell out, all kinds of different things, new client acquisition. But when you're collaborative, you actually share ideas and you work and you help one another if somebody gets stuck, and you share ideas on different kinds of promotions or different processes, such as like a quarterly business review, how to do that and how to do it effectively and what that looks like, so that other people who may not be at the same level you are can start introducing that into their sales strategy with their existing clients.
That's such an important differentiation you're making. You can compete without be pitted against each other, right?
Yeah.
And that's the key thing, right? Their win is not your loss. It's not a zero-sum game, but there's still competition. But you're not really winning and losing. I think that's so key.
Yeah. A key thing is if you're doing like a sales contest, because we used to have those, you've got to make something that the entire team has to contribute to win, and
Hmm.
everybody wins. And then there's an individual prizes as well. And when you do it that way, everyone is striving because everybody gets to win. And then the standouts, they get something, they get a perk.
Nice. I want to do a little bit of a change. When a salesperson isn't performing, can we turn that around? Or if you don't have it, you don't have it. What does it look like?
First of all, salespeople can be trained just like a barista at Starbucks or somebody who's an electrical engineer. So sales skills are trainable. You know, these are power skills that you learn: negotiation, flexing your style, how to ask for the sale, how to build rapport. Um, they are all skills that can be built. So the first thing is to digest what's really happening. And to do that, you either need to write along, you have to review their virtual meetings. You've got to find out what's happening. Um, Sometimes the salesperson doesn't, they're sort of doing that fake it till you make it. That's fatal. You
Oh, wait,
know,
hold on. So you hear this all the time, right? Fake it till you make it. Why is that fatal? Why? Explain the
because it's
thought
false
process.
and people are not stupid, and they
Hmm.
can figure it out, and they catch you up in it pretty quickly that you don't know what you're talking about.
Hmm.
And that destroys the trust and credibility that your prospect and or clients have in you, and it creates churn
Hmm.
because you've essentially lied to them.
Hmm.
So that whole concept is, I completely find it false. And I believe it's the core reason that people go through a lot of client churn. And that in turn impacts the organization very negatively. If you have a lot of client churn, you got something systemically wrong.
What is it about this concept of truth or building trust that can go right or wrong in that sales relationship?
So we all have, when you discover that you can't trust someone, I mean,
Hmm.
let's be honest, why would you give them more business?
Right.
It's the very core foundation. This doesn't mean that something went wrong, but when you're honest and transparent about it, you acknowledge it, you let the other person experience and share their emotions about how they felt, you can now recover from that and move forward. But so if something goes wrong, you miss a delivery and you lie about it, and you end up getting caught in that lie, that is so damaging versus just having told the truth in the beginning. I mean, think about it. Think about all the rom-coms out there where somebody, oh, you're the PR agent and you're actually the assistant, and then you fake it like you are because you know that job. But
Right.
it's like, just tell them in the beginning. What the heck? It's like it sets up this whole stupid scenario, right? I mean, those are rom-coms, but those apply in life.
Yeah.
When you lie to people, um, you can you can fool some of the people some of the time, but eventually it will catch up with you. Peers talk to one another, they catch you out in the lie, and it's destroys your credibility.
There's a certain structural incentive to make that happen, right? So we have the salespeople that are then handing over to implementation or support or customer success. So the salespeople, and I don't know how many times I've seen, almost every time, this conflict between customer success and sales. It's always there, where salespeople are overselling. At least that's what we used to call it. Um, is there an issue in the structure? Is there an issue in the training? Like this issue of overselling, sometimes on purpose, sometimes by mistake. That is, in essence, you're kind of lying to the customer. Like, oh yeah, we
Yeah,
can do
no,
that.
I mean, that's despicable. So, um, you can't, you need to always do the you need to undersell and over deliver,
Hmm,
right? And so if you're overselling and that's the only way that you can close a sale, then there's something either wrong with what you're doing in sales or wrong. Why is that happening? Is the organization not meeting the expectations of the clients? What are those expectations? What's you got to really dive into the client thinking. What do they want, need, or lack? Why does it matter to them? So they can. What is that? What's going on? So that you can then reverse engineer your process and what you're doing. Because if you're, I mean, I see this a lot. So there's a lot of sleazy, slimy manipulation in sales. There is. Um, and that's horrible. But it happens in a lot of industries, but it definitely happens in sales. And I see this on a level where with sales consultants. Oh, you'll have results in 30 days. You just have to memorize this script and it's going to work for you. Once again, that's just horse hockey. So it just, they literally are, we're doing a numbers game where they get your money, they take your money, and you get diddly squat almost for it, and you just feel burned. So if that's happening, you need to go back as an organization and find out why, because this is going to permanently damage your reputation in the marketplace. Those clients, they talk to one another at events, at conferences, at
right.
trade shows. And you will get a stain that this goes on, that you can't, as a business, you can't be trusted.
Absolutely. Lynn, this has been such an absolute pleasure. Believe it or not, we're almost out of time. There, I wanna ask you two last questions. One is, if you had to give one piece of advice out to companies and individuals on how to be awesome at sales, what would that be?
uh, to lean into your worthy intent, where you
Hmm,
truly desire to help and serve your clients and create massive impact. When you do that, that truth, it shines through and you will stand out in a sea of sameness.
I love that. That we talk about this 10x concept in entrepreneurship, but I think that's also, I love your usage of it in sales, right? If you're going to make a huge difference for your customers, it's just going to make such a difference for you as well. The only
Absolutely.
question that is scripted in this show is a difficult one because it's a personal one. If you had to go back to 20-year-old Lynn and give her some sort of advice, what would that be?
That one piece of advice would be, when you get married and your husband is having issues, make sure he gets a PSA test. Because my late husband, that didn't happen until it was way too late and he was in stage 4 and he had a very aggressive form of prostate cancer and it proved fatal.
My Lord. Well, Lynn, I, 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 my father actually is going through his own form of cancer right now, so I can definitely empathize with you.
Yeah, it's a rough road to hoe.
It definitely is. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute delight.
Well, Ari, thank you for having me. I am really excited that we were here and we never got to talk about Dale Carnegie. And
That's true. Yeah, we can add a sentence about that. Before we started recording, we just shared it. It's such an old book, right? How to Make Friends and Influence People, but it is stayed true over so many decades. Such an amazing piece of
that's
literature.
it's human nature and it's about speaking to the good, right?
That's right.
And I still recommend it. It's like must read.
Absolutely. Lynn, thank you so much for joining the show today. I appreciate you.